Hey, friends. I was just thinking about how a lot of people desire the freedom that I live with, and a lot of people think that they can't have that same freedom without preparing, without having this or that or whatever. I am on my fourth vehicle since starting this journey. I started in an old Dodge Travco, which I think was 27 feet long. And it was so big. So after, I don't know, 4 or 5 months of driving it around, maybe a little longer, but somewhere around there, I parked it in Pueblo, Colorado, and lived in it for a while on a ranch and left it there. I bought what was it? A Chevy, uh, not Bronco, Trailblazer extended, so the back end was longer, so I could fully lay out in it. And I had a bedroll. The seats folded down. That was okay, but the floor was a little high because of the seats being folded down. Um, the next thing I owned was a Chevy Venture, maybe Uplander, which is kind of like a minivan. It's basically a minivan, and I had the back seats taken out of that, and just a twin bed in the back. No bathroom because I can either go outside or use facilities somewhere else. I don't want to have to clean anything. I didn't even want to have to clean anything when I was in the RV. Window coverings. The seats are out of this 99 Toyota Sienna, which is a minivan. I have a twin size bed in the back, a surfboard in the back, and basically clothes, skateboards, basketball. A friend of mine she's having a Sprinter built, which is fucking awesome. Um, she's gonna have a lot of bells and whistles, which I think she'll be happy with, and I would be happy with that also. It's just my point is to do this life, you really don't need a lot. The amount of money that I paid for this minivan is $1,800. It had 160 some thousand miles on it. The engine was strong, the transmission was strong. It does have some shakage at around 65 or 70. Really, the quality of the roads matters tremendously. The roads in the US aren't that good. But go to Mexico, you'll never complain about the roads in the US. uh, yeah, so, anyways, it has some flaws. It's not perfect, but it does the job. And here's another thing for me, I've never, like, completely lived in the vehicle. There's always been things that have, well, in Pueblo, I lived in that RV, but other than that, there's always been something where I had a place to stay. It's crazy. As long as I've been living in a vehicle, I've stayed, I don't know, this has been going on since 2016 of April, and I would say I've probably stayed a complete year in a vehicle, not to include the RV. I feel like that was a home. I felt like I had a home in that RV, especially when it was parked. So probably 12 months from, let's say, we go from let's just say from 2017 then, yeah, sometime in 2017, a total of a year in a vehicle. And I actually sleep better because I can hear nature in the vehicle. I can hear the wind, I can hear the birds, I can feel the weather. All of that seems more natural to me than sleeping in a home with climate control. I can't stand climate control. The whole time I was traveling with Apple Maps, living in hotel rooms, I would open the freaking 4 inches they usually give you. Sometimes you have a balcony or whatever, but I would open the window as far as possible and usually turn off the air. And people would come to my room and be like, "Yo, bro, your room is hot." I'm like, "Yeah, but I could go outside and be comfortable, and I'm comfortable in here." That's just how I roll. I'm a nature boy. I'm a child of the earth, and I've rewilded myself, and I love myself wild and free. But anyways, it doesn't take that much to live this life if you're wanting to live it or if you're forced into it. Either way. And it's a damn good life. I have traded security, financial stability, social acceptance, uh, being legal, all kinds of things for freedom, experience, a more natural lifestyle. Like, I rarely ever use an alarm clock. I literally decide whenever I want to work. I could quit a job anytime I want to if I take a job. The experience that I've gained, most people pay, if I was working 8 hours a day, 5 days a week, I wouldn't be able to have the experience that I have had because I wouldn't have the time. If I tried to do it the way that everyone else, or most people, I should say, not everyone else, the way that most people do it, by being able to pay for hotel rooms and being able to, even campsites. Dude, I sleep at grocery store parking lots mostly, or neighborhoods just on the street, or preserves, or BLM land, or wherever. I don't care. I don't pay for it. I feel like life should basically be free. We should work, yes, and contribute, but to the point that our community needs us, and to the point that we need us, and the point that our family needs us to do this. Not so that several motherfuckers can live as billionaires because of us. Oh, hell no. You motherfuckers need to go. We all put our pants on one leg at a time. You feel me? And actually, you people probably pay somebody to put your pants on, right? Like, or you potentially could. So in many ways, actually, I will just straight up say, the billionaires of the world, most of them are helpless without us. In fact, they cannot maintain their lifestyles without us. And we should stop supporting their lifestyles. That's my opinion. And basically, for that to happen, we just stop participating in the system. We start acting as communities. We start living tribal lives. We start communing up and providing for each other's needs in a way that's sustainable for ourselves, for our livelihood, for our mental capacity, for our hearts, a way that's sustainable for our world. If we're destroying the earth, think about this. Think about this. Elon Musk wants to create life on Mars. Where do you think he's going to get the resources for life on Mars? Think he's going to get them from Mars or from Earth? This is our mother. This is where everything thing that we gain from life comes from. The most unnatural things, plastic, for instance, comes from the earth. It's a derivative, it's a product of the earth. This is our only chance. We are waking up, and we have to wake up. Now, the world has been covered in water before. We have evidence of this on every mountain, I believe, or maybe not, but most mountains of the earth. I can't think of a religion with a creation story that doesn't also have a flood story. Many Native American religions have a flood story. We are destroying the earth, make no bones about it. Its livability for ourselves, and yet the earth has a tremendous capacity to heal herself. Mushroom spores can break down the toxicity of oil, so there's probably potential there for plastic also. Yeah, she has ways to make everything biodegradable, right? And she will biodegrade our asses if we're not careful. We're doing it to ourselves, and yet the earth is going through a temperature change. Perhaps global warming, perhaps even global cooling mixed in there. And certainly after global warming, there will be global cooling. Like, we have lifetimes of evidence of this happening on and off. This fear, we are destroying the earth. Don't get me wrong. I'm not Donald Trump. We are destroying the earth. We are not helping ourselves in any way in that regard. And yet the fear that is being broadcast is being used to control people and change not a goddamn thing. And that's why you can't trust it, because they're not changing a goddamn thing. That's the truth. They're not changing anything. They're changing consumption patterns. Mining for raw earth metals is more dangerous than mining for coal. Coal is easily found in huge swaths that you don't have to actually mine deep into the earth for all the time. There are places in Montana where it's basically sitting on top of the earth. And yet, rare earth metals, which run the technologies that are going to save the earth, are super hard to mine for. They do what's called strip mining, where they strip all the earth off the side of a mountain and just keep digging and stripping into the mountain and just stripping the land raw of these tiny trace elements that are within the soil that they find, that they need for this technology. This is extremely destructive to the earth that we're trying to save. They're only changing consumption patterns. They're lying to us about these things saving the earth, because their system doesn't work without us consuming material, without us needing something from outside of ourselves. Tribal living shows us how to live with everything within hand's reach of ourselves, with our families within walking distance of our work, maybe living distance of our work. A less fractured, more complete, more whole life. We don't have a mental health crisis because of COVID. We have a mental health crisis because we're living in a sick society that causes mental health. In fact, it doesn't work unless we're sick, unless we feel like we need. It doesn't work. The reason everyone is so mentally unhealthy is because they have to be mentally unhealthy for this society to work. The destruction of tribal life was the destruction of a whole, fulfilling life. This system doesn't work for anyone, including the billionaires. There are billionaires committing suicide. This system, some people say it works for white men. I disagree. White middle-aged men are the biggest committers of suicide. I don't know how else to say that. That was funny, but whatever. White middle-aged men are committing suicide at the highest rate of anyone in our society. The age, remember when the whole time I was growing up, the lifespan was going up, and suddenly the lifespan is going down quite tremendously, actually, in the United States. Despite all these medicines that we have, despite all this healthcare that we, like the best healthcare system in the world, apparently, right? And the most plentiful food in the world, and yet how is it making us sick at the same time? And they act like there's nothing we can do about this, and yet companies are Monsanto is in charge of our food, basically. Hello, Bill Gates. Thank you so much for being a part of it. The big pharma is in bed with Monsanto. Bayer, anyone? It goes so deeply, like they control the food system, which makes us sick. But before that, all the misinformation. Look at the food chart. Everyone knows that the food pyramid is a terrible way to eat. Everyone knows that. And yet, look at it, and it's what we used and believed for years and years. Our diets have consistently gotten worse through our education somehow. Our education system has taken, so in tribal life, there's an emphasis put on art and music and dance. I know all of that is art. And that's how people communicate and relate to each other. I mean, think about it. We love going to concerts for a reason, because we're in a crowd full of people and we're all like doing the same thing. We're taking part in the same thing. We like to go eat with each other. It's not the only restaurants are not just popular because it's somewhere else to go eat. Restaurants are popular because we're dining with other people. Live music is popular because we're listening and enjoying and communicating and being active. Sporting events are popular because, yeah, we're acting as community. But we've been told we have to pay hundreds of dollars for these things and only do them once a month, or who knows, once in a lifetime for some people. That's sad, right? And yet in tribal living, it's done a lot of times nightly, daily, those kinds of things, those community things. There was less emphasis on work, more emphasis on family and community and relating. And those are all things that we're missing now. And yet we can't imagine life without a cell phone. And yet, anytime anyone goes and spends time without their cell phones in nature, they feel rejuvenated and like life is passing them by, and they know they need to do more of what they just did. And yet we go back to our jobs, enslaving ourselves to these billionaires who are living like queen bees. Oh yeah, they're out doing whatever they want, enjoying life, playing in whatever way they want to play. But we're not. And so I applaud you, America, for leaving the workforce. Good job. I even heard Sadhguru tell people that they were destroying the America that our grandparents created. Well, Sadhguru, I don't like the America that our grandparents created. And I lost a lot of respect for you when you said that. So I doubt you care, but dude, life is not about work. And life is not about nation building. And shame on you, Sadhguru, for encouraging us to be nation builders. Coming from a country where in India where the British came and invaded and destroyed your way of life, which you're working very hard to bring back. I just don't understand what you don't understand, other than it seems to me that you might be an undercover mouthpiece for nation building. I didn't expect to say that, but there it is. So, that's another thing. We need not be such respecters of humans, of gurus, of people in charge. They are the same as us, and they are here to learn from us. And if we don't teach them, no one will. And sometimes the hardest lesson is for what seems to be indestructible to be destroyed, and that's the job of Shiva and Kali. Shiva and Kali are busy destroying the systems and the powers. The systems and the powers that be, and it's changing hands, even in the yoga community where there's generally a patriarchy in that community, like a guru whom you have to serve and please, or a matriarchy at times, a guru that you have to serve and please. And many of those gurus have been really rude and downright mean, and sometimes just really evil, actually. And so, for all the good that the guru system has brought about, gurus are out the door. In 10 years' time, gurus won't exist. We'll all be our own gurus. It's going to take 6 years for us to begin to see that that's the case. It just looks like a wide array of people are waking up right now, which is true. But in 5 years, we'll see, boom, everyone is becoming awake. And within 10 years, we'll have no more gurus. So I encourage you, begin to find your own intuition. And that is something that you could probably use help in, just because our world has done such a great job of programming us and forcing us to believe that we need so much outside of ourselves, that we no longer hear our own internal guidance system. And in fact, not only have we not been told or taught how to turn it on, we have been misguided. This is my biggest problem with the Christian church, other than their hatred of homosexuals and women, and other than in the black community, minorities, actually. I'm sorry, not just the black community. There are other communities, other minority communities. It's just, I've experienced that community. Racism has, Jesus had no place for racism. Jesus had no place for hatred of homosexuals. And Jesus kept women around him because Jesus was fully masculine and fully feminine, and he needed or desired the company of both. As far as feminism has come, though, I will say that it's hard to find the divine masculine in this world. It's not easy. There's not a plethora of men walking around in divine masculinity. The same is true for women, actually. Even in the spiritual community, there's a lot of femininity that's actually not femininity, it's masculinity. And there are a lot of women hurt by men that are actually acting in the masculine in their hurtness. There are a lot of men acting in hurtness also, in their femininity and masculinity. It's equal, is what I'm saying. It's equal. We're all in the same boat. There's no one to blame. We just need to focus inside of ourselves and see what's there and become aware of what's in the heart. And for me, that has come through embracing the feminine, embracing the gentle, the soft, the warm, going towards my desires, being less rigid, being a little less disciplined, actually, being less intense, resting more, being less a person of my word and more a person of my heart. Sometimes things change. I never used to allow that. I used to be very forceful. I was an alpha male. I was born into war, and I went to war for 7.5 years in Iraq and Afghanistan. I'm not perfect now. I'm on a healing journey, and I'm healing, and it's beautiful, but I'm not perfect in any way, according to other men and women's eyes, and yet I am perfect. And yet I am perfect. I am what I am. I am as I am. I do as I am. I am you, and you are me. And I love you like the trees, the sun and the moon.